another episode of BS Busters. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you. This podcast almost didn't happen today because I got some bad news business wise that kind of pissed me off. But then I was like, you know what? This too shall pass. So with that
Yeah.
being said, let's before I go before I everyone let's have everyone introduce themselves. Then I'll give you the topics for today's podcast, and then we'll dive right into everything. So let's have the lady go first, then the gentleman, and then we'll get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Wesley goes all ages. Welcome to the Beastbusters Midweek Podcast for October 14th. I'm Joy Eli Moonstar, and I got somebody special to nominate for the A-hole of the week, but I'll save it.
Kenoshi.
This is Kenoshi Abominito here to say, no, I don't have anything fancy to say, so glad to be here.
And this is Mr. Red Fox. And we have some good stuff in today's podcast. First, we have our first topic will be games that are monuments to bad game design. All right. So we'll each wax poetic about a game that we played, and we just noticed that this game is really badly designed,
Crafted.
barely made. It might be a popular game. It might have high sales, but you played it and you realize this game is not very well made. It has some fundamental thing about it that just makes it not come together the way it should. Our second segment will be clones of games that are better than the original. For example, Streets of Rage is better than Final Fight on consoles. Now, I will say that Streets of Rage is not better than the arcade version of Final Fight. But the console version of Final Fight, unless you're talking the Sega CD version, but the 16-bit version of Final Fight, Streets of Rage blows it out the water. Even though, on a personal note, I prefer Final Fight over Streets of Rage. And then our third segment will be good games you just can't get into. So these will be games that, like, people say this game's really good, and you tried to play it and you realized I'm not feeling it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it. The game might not even be bad. It's just not for you. And then we'll close it out with unpopular opinions, and we also have a few news stories. So let's dive into it. So, who wants to go first with games that are monuments to bad design?
The Sonic RPG on the DS. And if anybody was expecting Sonic 06, I got a disappointment for you. Because I haven't played that.
The Sonic game that was made by BioWare.
Yeah.
Game?
Yep. That one.
What are you supposed to do? Like, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It reminded me of a very unpolished Elite Beat agents, bad stylus controls, and well, your ear. You may want to find some good Sonic music for playing that game because the sound that it provides, well,
Well, I'm gonna say something, and you're gonna get mad when you hear me tell you this. The reason that game has the sound cut out is because 2/3 of the way through the development of that game, Sega cut off the funds for BioWare to make that game. So they basically said we can either spend money on designing this level, or cut the game out and just spend money on the music, so that it'll have full music. And they were like, we'll design the level and just cut out the music. So that's what they had to do. Yeah. This is like that game was made when BioWare left Microsoft but hadn't been picked up by EA. So they were kind of an indie studio at that point. and they kind of were not really. Their money was a little short. Let me put it that way. All right. But I'll tell you this much. I get where you're coming from, but I would still take Sonic the Hedgehog, the Dark Brotherhood, um, over Sonic Boom, uh, Sonic Heroes, not Sonic Heroes.
Hey,
What was that new? Well, I don't really like the 3D Sonic games. Period.
horses.
Sonic Forces. Like I would take Sonic Chronicles, Sonic Dark Brotherhood, Sonic Chronicles over any of those other games because at least it was trying to do something interesting with the characters and not the same. Like, how many times do I have to play a 3D Sonic game where they basically just keep on fucking recycling the same level designs over and over in each fucking game? Sonic running away from something, running downhill, being chased by a fucking vehicle. Sonic running on some shit on the ocean and being chased by a whale. Like, how many times are they just gonna keep on fucking recycling the same damn thing with the Sonic the Hedgehog 3D games? Like, how many times are they ever gonna do anything new? No. Okay then. Yeah.
I was gonna make the joke that they at least tried to give us a a new character to play with, though your mileage may vary.
What new character? Sonic Forces?
Yeah,
The character you can make yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they basically created a character creator mode, which is something that people on PC have been doing for years on Sonic games, hacking in new characters and shit. I didn't play it. I saw someone play Sonic 06 where they hacked in Goku. No, it was Gohan from Dragon Ball Z. Kid Gohan. Super Saiyan Kid Gohan. And it made more sense with Super Saiyan Kid Gohan than the bullshit we got in Sonic 06. So, I mean, yeah. Sega with their 3D Sonic games they either need to just have another team make those games or just stop because their 3D games are trash. They're fucking trash. They've been Sonic Adventure is trash. Sonic Adventure 2 is trash. Sonic Heroes is not like the other two, but it's not great. It's just better than the other two. And the rest of them have been trash, except for Sonic Unleashed. I actually like that one. I know people don't like that one. They're like the Weirhog levels, but at least it was fucking different and it wasn't recycling shit from the other games. Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, Sega just cannot learn of Sega. There used to be a time where everything Sega did was them riffing off of something Nintendo was doing. Like Sonic the Hedgehog was a riff off of Mario. Streets of Rage was a riff off of Final Fight. Phantasy Star was a riff off of Final Fantasy. Like they basically were at their best when they were doing like little riffs on other people's popular franchises. But for the life of them, like, did anyone over at fucking Sega play Super Mario 64 and say, I think we can make a game, a Sonic the Hedgehog that's actually good? Like the closest you're gonna get to a good 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game isn't even Sonic the Hedgehog game. It's Billy Hatcher. That's it. That's the closest you're gonna get because the rest of them are trash. But they're trash. They're trash. Anyone else want to go with monuments to bad game design?
Well, I know I gave mine. What about you two?
Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts.
Like,
The thing is, there probably could have been a decent. There probably could have been a decent game there if it wasn't Banjo-Kazooie. Like the whole idea of taking a franchise and completely turning it on its head like that. It's no longer a platformer. Like,
yeah,
it probably would have been fine if it was a spin-off game, making it a full.
You know what? Here's what they should have done. Okay, because you can have a game that has vehicles in it that's also a platformer and make the shit work. Look at Jak and Daxter 3 and 2.
Yeah.
Those games had vehicles, but they also had platforming. If that game, if the game, first of all, if they had had better character models for Banjo and Kazooie, like more like their classic models and not that we're going new and if they didn't have that Microsoft dick up their ass, they probably could have made a better game. Here's what I'll say about Banjo Nuts and Bolts. It is not a well-designed game because basically you're right. Had it just been a spinoff, and they said this is not the third game in the series, it's a spinoff, people probably would have forgiven them. But for them to get on stage and praise that shit like it's the third game in the series, that was the death knell for Rare with Microsoft. Like, that was the moment when people who were fans of Rare knew that they were dead.
Yeah.
That was this shit ain't gonna work. I agree with you that like you shouldn't take a core franchise and then strip out features that are core to it in order to appeal to a different audience. You hear that, Nintendo? You hear that? You hear that with Breath of the Wild? You motherfuckers.
Unlike Nuts and Bolts, the ironic part is that Breath of the Wild was successful.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild was more successful because we hadn't had a new Legend of Zelda game in almost 8 years, 7 years.
Well, I don't think it's just that. I mean,
no. Let me look it up. Skyward Sword came out because Banjo Tooie came out towards the end of the N64's life cycle. Let's see. Skyward Sword came out in release date. Skyward Sword came out in 2011. Okay, it came out in 2011, and Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. So there was like a 6-year hiatus. And Legend of Zelda, like people really fucking love that game. All right. But then, Banjo Tooie came out in 2000. And Banjo Nuts and Bolts, Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts came out in.
Wouldn't be surprised if it was 2006.
2008. So there was a longer wait. That should have done better. But I think it was so different from the original that people went that. And plus, you have to remember, Zelda fans are way more rabid than Rare fans.
Yeah, that's true.
People had higher expectations of the next Legend of Zelda game. And, they didn't, they weren't really, you didn't know how much shit was not in Breath of the Wild until you played it. Like, it wasn't, you're like, well, there might be dungeons. No, they aren't really dungeons in this game. There might be items. There aren't really items in this game. Everything just fucking breaks. And here's how, as an aside, there's some bad gameplay designs in Breath of the Wild. Like, okay, the weapon durability system, okay, is fucking stupid because here's the thing, okay? One of the major aspects of Breath of the Wild, and this Eiji Aonuma said this is one of his design, is that they wanted to make combat dynamic and enjoyable. They wanted to encourage you to fight because in most Legend of Zelda games, other Legend of Zelda games, they noticed that a lot of people weren't really fighting. or fighting or combat was not dynamic. But here's the thing. Once enemies get to a certain level of difficulty in Breath of the Wild, you literally are breaking weapons after one or two fights. So then you have to stop and go find more weapons so that you can fight. So after a certain point, people just run away from fights in that game.
Yeah.
So the whole point behind making combat dynamic and making it enjoyable is negated by their shitty design choices. um, so it's
I was about to
just
say that in the game, I felt more like that you become a hoarder when you play a game rather than a usual hero.
I mean, you do start to hoard weapons, but like, okay, basically, once you get to the mid game, you start hoarding weapons, because in the mid game, you're gonna have a lot of trash weapons that you held onto, and you're gonna start like you haven't started to get really powerful weapons with a lot of durability that you can use for a while. Um, but once you get towards the end game and you like start getting a lot of the orbs and boosting up your health or your stamina, basically, because that's the end game algorithm that determines how tough enemies are, and like when certain items begin to appear. So basically, what winds up happening in the game towards the end game, once you get really powerful, is that basically you start running across enemies that take a lot of damage, that take a lot of hits, that have a lot of health. So basically, your weapons on normal difficulty, you're gonna go through even your more powerful weapons, except for the Master Sword. They're gonna break after a short period of time. So then you got to go scavenge more weapons, which wouldn't be a bad thing, except if you wait an in-game week, the enemies respawn, so it's always a war of attrition on your weapons. So it's just not a good gameplay design, especially towards end game. I know what they were going for, but it just wasn't well done. It just was not well implemented. But that's not my game that's a monument to bad design. My game that is a monument to bad gameplay design is none other than Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is a monument to bad gameplay design. And the reason I say that is because Fallout 4 does something that is shocking to me. It makes three major errors in video gaming. The first thing is that the entire plot of the game is revealed, and the entire plot
At the very
and
start.
the plot twist is revealed in the first 10 minutes of the game. So basically, here's the point of the entire game, okay? And the plot twist is already revealed in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. So basically, you and your wife and your little child, depending on which character you choose, you could be the male or female of this couple. You're essentially, the event that causes the events of Fallout, the war that causes the nuclear annihilation of all these different nations, occurs in the beginning of the game. And your characters essentially go to this vault called Vault 101, or whatever it's called. I forget the number. And it's a vault that is for cryogenic stasis, and you're cryogenically frozen. Now, essentially, whichever person you choose, your spouse is holding the baby when they're put inside a stasis. You wake up from stasis, and you see your baby stolen and your spouse murdered. Then you're cryogenically frozen yet again. What seems to be a short period of time for you, you wake up and you go to find your lost child. Remember, you're at a cryogenic
You were
facility.
in a cryogenic slumber for several years.
X amount of years, like 60 years. But you don't know this. But, I mean, it's like the twist is obvious. Like the twist is obvious. So basically, you're off to search a son who is probably aged 50 to 60 years. By the time you find him, he's actually the villain of the game. So basically, Fallout 4's plot is the same plot as Fallout 3, except in reverse. And in Fallout 3, your father makes a needless sacrifice that could have been, like, it could have been prevented. But in Fallout 4, your kid is just straight up a villain. it's it's fucked up, really. It's really okay. So that's number one. The plot is fucking is the entire point of the plot is revealed in the first 10 minutes of the game. That's just bad RPG design. And I know people will say that Fallout 4 is not an RPG. And on a technical scale, I would agree with you. Fallout 4 is not an RPG, but to the mass public of gamers who play that game, they think it's an RPG. So that's the metric we're gonna use to measure it. Okay. Now let's compare that plot to Chrono Trigger, which is one of the best RPGs ever created. You don't even figure out what the overall plot of Chrono Trigger is until you're like an hour and a half into the game.
Or rather, until you get your fourth party member.
Well, I mean, depending on, how quickly you move through stuff. If you're like me and you grind your ass off before you get New Game Plus, you grind your ass off in order to get enough money to buy the better sword in the southern village, where that mayor who's like really like
greedy.
Before you go back, who's really greedy and pays you money to act like a chicken, like basically, if you're like me and you grind your ass off fighting Gato and doing stuff like that in order to get money so that you can buy really good items for Chrono early on in the game, it's like an hour and a half, okay? But you don't figure out the like Lavos and all that shit until you go to the future and you see you reactivate Robo. And you see, you look at the computer screen and you see the Day of Lavos. That's when you actually see the overall main villain of the game for the first time. And you don't even meet him. You don't even get to fight him at that point. You just get to see that there's this catastrophe that you're gonna try to prevent. That's the overall plot of Chrono Trigger. You're trying to prevent a world-ending catastrophe. That's it. That's all it is. But you're like an hour and a half in, and you have no idea how you're going to do that. Now, let's keep it moving. The second major design flaw that Fallout 4 has is they give you access to one of the most powerful items in the first 20 minutes of the game.
And that would be the power armor.
Yeah.
Which, oh God, that is so wrong.
Yeah, they give you power armor and a minigun. A minigun that if you basically maintain it, you can use towards the end of the game. So they basically give you a Iron Man suit, a low level, a Mark 1 Iron Man suit, and power armor. And a chain gun. And a mini chain gun. In the first 20 minutes of the game. And they try to mitigate doing this really bad gameplay design by being like, well, I mean, we've got, they're power rods that you can, it takes fusion rods in order for you to power your power armor. But here's the thing.
What have you been gathering all this time?
Well, the thing is that you can buy fusion rods from merchants who apparently, even though no one can refine fusion rods anymore, they will, in perpetuity, keep on finding them and respawning in their inventory. So it's not really all that difficult for you to basically get more fusion rods in order to power your Iron Man armor. It's like, oh, really? That's where you're going? Really? You're actually gonna do that? Okay.
talk about bad design.
Yeah, it's
I mean, if anything, at least give players the chance to make it themselves and try to maintain their armor by work.
well, I mean, it's bad game design because really,
I know it's bad game design. I'm just saying that if anything, they could have lessened the blow by doing at least something.
well, I mean, the sad thing about all of this is that in other games, power armor was something that you got
Kind of late in the game.
late in the game. And if you and even then, when you got it late in the game, you had to be trained in how to use power armor. It was a you earned that shit. So when you finally got power armor, it was like, well, man, I'm gonna fuck some shit up. Not in this game.
20 minutes, power armor.
20 minutes power armor, and yeah, I get it. It's not the best power armor in the game. It isn't. It's actually like the shittiest power armor in the game. But still, that's just ridiculous. And the final cardinal sin mess up of that game is they have the nerve in this game to give you in Fallout 4. They have the nerve to basically have all these different gameplay systems that don't really work well together. Like they're very disparate, which just makes everything fall apart. So for me, Fallout 4, like they had the settlement system, which, aside from like two or three quests, you really don't need to use. They have they have uh, uh, the crafting system, which aside from one or two quests, you don't really have to use. They have a really shitty leveling up system. Um, I mean, like, the worst thing about Bethesda's Fallout 4 is that they literally learned absolutely nothing from previous games in the series. Um, like, I don't know how the fuck you can make a game that's part of a series and not learn anything from the previous series, not refine anything, just throw everything away and start from scratch. But it's Bethesda. They're mediocre developers. The reason Bethesda gets away with a lot of stuff is because there's no one else making games of that caliber. Like there's no one else making games of that size or that level of presentation, that presentational level. But which is one reason I'm kind of pissed that Microsoft bought Bethesda, because now there's no need for them to compete and get better. Um, which is not good. Okay, there needs to be competition in gaming.
Yeah.
There needs to be different people doing different things. Like when Final Fantasy had to compete against Dragon Quest, we got better Final Fantasies. um, when there were multiple companies making good JRPGs, we got better JRPGs. During the golden age of JRPGs, we got Lufia, Breath of Fire, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, all types of shit. During the golden age of the Pocket Monster, during the early days of the Pokemon series, you had Pokemon alternatives, and some of which that were better than Pokemon. You had Telerobo, which was basically the robot Pokemon game, except it was more interesting because the robots were cooler. You had Metabots. You had Digimon. You had Dragon Quest Monsters. Like competition means you get better products because then they have to step up their game. If there's no competition, then you get what you do now, which is Pokemon that's stagnant as fuck. Final Fantasy that's stagnant as fuck. You know, even Nintendo. Like, look, I like the 3D and 2D Mario games, but if you had the same level of competition that you had during the 16 and 8-bit era with platforming, you would have less stagnation because everyone's resting on their laurels instead of trying to innovate, which is not a good thing. But that's my own personal opinion. Anyone have anything else they want to add to this segment before we move on to the next one?
Not that I know of on the spot. Sorry.
All right. So our next topic is clones of games that are better than the original.
Clones? Ooh, that's a little tricky because it's hard to really define clones, but as far as as far as weird taste goes, I think Fortune Street is a better party game than the usual Paper Mario. I mean, the usual Mario Party games.
Yeah, but that's a very low bar to hurdle.
Though
Because
I
Mario
consider
Party's
it
been kind
more
of bad for years.
very funny. But I was about to say that if anything, I consider it at least a lot more competent and more of a clone of Dokapon Kingdom.
Yeah, Dokapon is pretty good. I mean, I'm not like in love with it, but it is pretty good.
Everyone.
Although, I mean, it is kind of interesting getting your ass kicked by just random shopkeepers in the mainline Dokapon games.
Yeah.
Like, you can try and rob a shopkeeper and you can fight them, but their stats are so high that they'll just kick your ass and kill you.
So,
And you'll lose all your shit.
So, if anything, at least they played a little bit nicer by only allowing them to play rock, paper, scissors.
Well, I mean, I think most of the Dokapon games are like that. Like, you have stats, but your stats really don't mean anything because your combat is a rock, paper, scissors system. And even if you have really high stats, if the enemy has decent stats and they hit you with your weakness, like you do rock, they do paper, they'll wipe your ass out. They can one-shot you, even if you're higher level than them. So, you know, Dokapon is like, that's where it kind of falls apart for me. Like, I don't like luck in my RPGs.
Huh. Cute. But if anything, I was gonna say a RPG board game. I kind of expect luck to be somewhere in that game.
I mean, yeah. Unless you're like.
Though, if anything, I consider Fortune Street to be a lot more sane than Dokapon Kingdom. So
yeah, it is, because there's a lot more strategy involved. It's not as in your face with it.
Hi.
So, but yeah, I am. I would have to say that my clone that is actually better than the original. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say that. Let's see, a clone that's better than the original. I mean, I already kind of used one of mine. Streets of Rage is better than Final Fight, and it's a clone. It is. It is. Another clone that's better than the original. Okay. Dragon Quest Monsters is better than Pokemon.
Depends on the generation, but I can agree with you.
Now, even the earlier Dragon Quest Monster games are better than Pokemon, because like Pokemon is really simplistic and kind of it's barely an RPG. It's an RPG light. Dragon Quest Monsters basically is how can I put this? It's more of an RPG. Like in later iterations.
You can even argue that Wrath of the White Witch, Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch, is a better Pokemon than Pokemon.
You mean yeah, Ni no Kuni. Yeah, Ni no Kuni. Yeah, Ni
Yeah,
no.
because there's a lot of
Yeah.
systems.
Plus, it has a better story. Plus, you can fight alongside your monsters, which already makes it more interesting than Pokemon. I'm like I know everyone thinks it's kind of stupid that Ash Ketchum tried to capture a Pokemon by hitting it with a stick. But if you actually made a more grounded and more RPG-ish monster game, it would make sense that the people could fight the monsters too. Like, it's just whatever. So yeah, I think they're better clones than the original. I think Pokemon has stagnated. It has not tried to evolve itself. Yeah, there's been like little things they've changed and taken away, but overall it hasn't really done anything to overhaul itself or make itself more interesting. Whereas there's clones of Pokemon that are better than Pokemon, in my opinion. Plus, Ni no Kuni has a Wrath of the White Witch has a much better story than any Pokemon game ever. I mean, what Pokemon would let you go inside the mother of all fairies and beat up a monster that's inside of her uterus so that her children can get born? What game do you know would let you do that? None, except for Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. That's why that's like my favorite Ni no Kuni. Ni no Kuni 2 sucked. I stand by that statement. It was basically its combat system was a shittier Tails combat system.
Yeah, it's like why are you taking away the turn base? Oh, we want a better audience. Like, really, guys?
Yeah, they were like, we want this to reach a bigger audience. I'm like, I don't really think that's gonna. I mean, I'm pretty sure it sold more, but I just don't. That game is not enjoyable. The kingdom building is kind of stupid. The army battles are kind of stupid. The main character that they sell you on, King Evan, is trash. Even though King Evan isn't the main character of the game. Ironically, I know people think like Evan is not the main character of Ni no Kuni 2. The main character of Ni no Kuni 2 is Roland. Because the main characters of the Ni no Kuni series are the characters who have the doppelganger. So the doppelganger in the first game was Oliver's doppelganger, who was the White Queen's right hand man, and the doppelganger clone in Ni no Kuni 2 is Roland's clone. So that's the main character of the game is Roland, which is weird. Because they really wanted it to be this little anime boy kid, but it just didn't work out the way they wanted it to. So
and the voice sounds so annoying too.
Who? Evan?
Yeah, the king or whatever.
Yeah.
Little kid that's supposed to.
Yeah.
His voice is so annoying.
Yeah, Evan. Like the thing is, Oliver was annoying, but he was supposed to be annoying because the whole point of the first Ni no Kuni is that Oliver comes to the realization that he can't bring his mother back. So it's like him accepting loss and overcoming it. And so it's like you can he's a brat, but he's like this little kid, so you can understand why he would be the way he is.
Yeah.
Evan has some fucked up shit happen to him, and he never has that point where he's like, this dude killed my father. I have to fuck him up. Like, he never has that point. He's always like, I will do the best I can. I'm like, come on, man. Like, what? This dude killed your father. What? Why are you? The fuck is this shit? Yes, I played my way through that game. It's not very good. Ni no Kuni 2 is an embarrassment. Like, level 5 should be ashamed of that game.
I mean, it also Ni no Kuni also has another big one. The first one is another big thing over the second game, and that's help from Studio Ghibli for the cutscenes.
Yeah, I mean they kept the same art style with the second game. Like it's not quite It's like Studio Ghibli, the knockoff, the B tier knockoff. So I mean, but it's not bad enough that you'd be like, this is terrible, but it's not as good as what they had in the first game. But just the plot isn't as good in the second game. The characters aren't as well fleshed out. Um, like the spirits are a sad, sad, sad fucking substitution for the monsters you had in the first game that you could recruit. It's
Yeah.
just I mean, the clones are better than the original. I'll put it like this. Like Darksiders to me was a pretty goddamn good Legend of Zelda clone. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
it's better than Legend of Zelda, but it was a really good clone of a Legend of Zelda game. The only difference was that it dealt with the rapture and heaven and hell, and had well, it didn't have cursing, but it had like a lot of gory glory kills and shit like that. And it was enjoyable. Darksiders 2, even more so. It went from being a Zelda clone to being a partial Zelda clone and a kind of like a God of War clone. Except I think Darksiders 2 is better than God of War. Because Kratos is not a likable protagonist. Whereas Death is like, okay, I can see why he's motivated to do what he's doing. Um, Darksiders 3 sucked. It was
Oof.
it was a clone of it was a shitty clone of a Dark Souls game. Um, and Darksiders Genesis was a bastardization of a isometric hack and slasher. So like Diablo, more not even Diablo, more like Dungeon Siege. It's not very good though.
Yeah.
So, so do you have a clone that you think is better than the original Kenoshi?
See here. No, I had one, but I can't remember it now.
Okay, well,
Right.
if it pops back into your head, you can jump in. Our
Yeah.
our final of our segments before we get to the news and unpopular opinion. Good games that you just can't get into.
I'll go first. The Witcher 3.
I can understand that.
Decent game. Can't get into it.
I appreciate what The Witcher
Try.
3 does, but every time I play it, I play about 2 or 3 hours, and then I drop it. I'm like, I can't. This game is too much. Plus, I don't like Geralt of Rivera.
Yeah.
I don't like the character. Like for me, in order for me to enjoy an RPG that has a pre-made character, I have to enjoy the character. And if I can't enjoy the character, then I don't want to play the game.
Yeah.
Jewel, do you have a good game that you just can't get into?
For me, it kind of goes into the weird, into the your mileage may vary section, but I say certain fighting games like like not Street Fighter, but kind of Blaze Blue and Tekken.
I can understand that.
Oh yeah, I remember the clones that are better than the better than the games that their current form, and that's pretty much any game made by Arc System, Blaze Blue, Guilty Gear.
Yeah, those games are better than Street
better
Fighter.
than Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all better than Street. Even some of the shittier.
I'd be careful about that line. There's a game called Energies. God bless the ring.
Yeah, but that wasn't made by Arc System Works. That was made by Square Enix.
I thought I'd at least remind you of bad fighting games.
Yeah, but Air Guys, God bless the ring. The big thing about that, their big push about that game wasn't that it was good. It was that it had Cloud Strife in it.
Yeah,
Was
I'm just
that
surprised
how
it's
they
airing
advertised
in a
it?
fighting game.
Yeah, that was the big advertisement that Cloud Strife was a character in that game. That was all that game. Actually, the only good thing about that game was that it actually had a pretty good RPG mode where you could go into a dungeon and shit and fight monsters.
Yeah, I tried that, and well, it blew. It's it the it sucks more than Kirby would suck.
I can understand that. I mean, like, here's the thing. I said that was the only good thing about it, but here's the thing. Everything else about that game was trash. So, like, that was just less trash
The
than
mini
everything
games,
else. Yeah,
the
the mini
battle system.
games, the combat system, like 3D fighting games on the PlayStation were just shit anyway. I mean, like I can't think of one 3D fighting game on the PlayStation that was good.
Rival schools united by fate.
Yeah, but Rival Schools wasn't a 3D fighting game. It looked like a 3D fighting game, but it was really
It was
2D.
the closest thing to a 3D fighting game.
It looked like a 3D fighting game, but it was still like 2D. The game the PlayStation on the original PlayStation, the games that were trying to be 3D fighting games, all of them sucked. Like uh, uh, Star Wars, Masters of Terra's Kai, um, 3D fighting game trash. The port of Soul Calibur trash. Bloody Roar trash. Um, basically, because the
It's funny that you said Bloody Roar because that's the only other fighting game that I know of that is 3D and actually had an interesting feel to it.
no,
Didn't
I
say it was
mean
perfect, but
I'll be honest with you. Bloody Roar is actually a good fighting game. It's just it's not good on the PlayStation. Like if you're gonna play Bloody Roar, I would say the Dreamcast version and the Sega Saturn version. That's the best way to play that game. Do not play it on the PlayStation. Basically, the PlayStation has some games that did not like.
it didn't age well.
No, no. Those like even 2D fighting games on the PlayStation. If there's a Sega Saturn version of those games, get it on the Sega Saturn. Don't play it on the PlayStation because it's not worth it. Like Marvel vs. Capcom on the PlayStation, trash, trash. Hot buttered ass is what it is. Um,
Ooh.
so yeah, I got another clone. I got another good game that I'll tell you a good game I just can't get into. Um, Team Fortress 2.
I was about to
I
say
was
that that's a Your Mileage May Vary game, isn't it?
No, I heard it's a very good game, but I can't get into most online multiplayer games.
I
Um,
was in I was into it for about a while. I was just trying to find people to play with, but nobody wanted to play it, so I just
yeah,
gave up.
yeah. I used to be like, basically, it's not that I would like to get into it, but the thing is, with online multiplayer games, it's really hard to get in if you weren't there at the beginning and stuck with it for a long time because you have to completely develop new skills, and I don't want to spend months getting my ass kicked before I get good.
Yeah,
So
Hey,
that's the thing.
hey, if you can't eat, if you can't swallow a pill that's always bitter, when whenever you lose, you kind of are asking for it.
no, no.
Team Fortress.
Look, I have nothing against that. I'm just saying that I don't personally want to. I don't want to play a game and spend 3 to 6 months getting my ass kicked, like 85% of the time before I get good enough to where I'm not getting my ass kicked. Because I have other like, I don't want to play a game where, like I said, I'm spending 85% of my time getting my ass kicked.
Team Fortress 2, LOL. What's that game? That first person shooter, Overwatch. Yeah, if you're not there from the start, you're pretty much screwed.
Now, Overwatch, you
You
can
get
kind of
into.
is easier to get into. Overwatch is easier to get into. Counter Strike. If you haven't been playing Counter Strike and you get into it now, you just kiss your ass goodbye. Stick your
Yeah, that game
look.
has been.
Pull your knees up to your chest, stick your head between your legs, and kiss your ass goodbye. If you're trying to play Counter Strike, if you have
Yeah,
not been playing Counter Strike for
that game's
years,
been around. Yeah, it's been around for over 20 years. So
you know,
yeah, good luck.
you're gonna get your ass handed to you. That's all I'm saying. Now Team Fortress, if you can get on a private server with people that can train you, because there are people who, for a certain amount of money, like $50 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month, they will train you to get good at Team Fortress too. Here's the thing: I'm not paying someone money to get better at a game, and I'm not going, and I don't feel like spending 3 to 6 months getting my ass kicked, relearning WASD controls and mouse and keyboard controls, because that's the only way you could really play a first or third person shooter on PC is with mouse and keyboard controls. That's the best way to play on a computer is mouse and keyboard controls. And I used to be really good at it back in the day. When I was playing, Quake Arena, Unreal Tournament back in the day. But I haven't played those games in years, and I'm rusty as fuck. Um, so, like I said, I'm not spending years, half a year, 3 to 6 months getting my ass kicked. I'm just not doing it. Um, not that I look. Listen, I have nothing against getting good and having to deal with the fallout of, you know, getting better, because a lot of games are like that. But if I'm playing a fighting game, I can do that because fighting games are easier for me to deal with that because you can train on the computer. And the thing is that the computer on the hardest difficulty is going to be harder than a human component, a human opponent, because the computer cheats. So if you can deal with a cheating opponent, then a human opponent is nothing. But on PC first-person shooters, you have people who you have people who have dynamite internet connections, so they're not lagging. You have people with dynamite PC setups, so they're not lagging. You have some people who they might not be using a modified mouse, but they have gaming mouses that are designed to make it easy to do that type of stuff. And I don't have that. I'm not spending $200 on a special mouse just so I can play a game that I'm going to get my ass kicked for 3 to 6 months, 85% of the time. It's a cost and time analysis thing for me. It's just not worth it. But I acknowledge that Team Fortress and Overwatch are good games. You know, I'm not one of those
Contrary
people.
to popular, contrary to popular belief, you don't need to spend an arm and a leg to, you know, become decent at a game. It's not necessarily.
No, but time.
Yeah.
Time is more valuable than money. And the time that I spend playing a game, getting good at a game that I really probably will not like, I could be playing something I really would enjoy. So,
Yeah, because you can get money back. Time you can't.
Yeah. So, that's my big thing. I just don't want to waste my time on bullshit. So there's certain games that, people are like, you got to play this game, and I play it for a little bit. I'm like, not for me. GTA 4. I never beat the main campaign in that game. Because I got 60%, 70% done. And then I looked up the end and I was like, fuck that.
GTA is boring.
Well, GTA 4
is just really boring.
Yeah, GTA 4 is boring. The sad thing about GTA 4 is that the expansions, Lost in the Damned and the Ballad of Gay Tony, are actually really good. But the main game is trash. I mean, it is fucking trash. It's hot buttered ass. Which is kind of weird because I've played all the other GTA games and 100%ed all the other ones. 1 and 2, GTA London, beat the shit out of those games. GTA 3, beat the shit out of that game. GTA Vice City, beat the shit out of that game. One of my favorites. GTA San Andreas, that's my favorite GTA of all time. GTA 5, I beat the main campaign, 100%ed it. It's not my favorite, but I enjoy it. GTA Chinatown Wars, enjoy that game too. I really do like the GTA franchise, but man, GTA 4 is. Although
A mess.
I don't think GTA 4 is a good game though. I think that's just. I think the reason people thought it was a good game is because there's such a long period between GTA's that people get built up behind it. They're like, man, this is great. It's like I don't think Breath of the Wild is all that good. Having gone back and played it again, I don't think it's really the best Legend of Zelda ever. But people had been waiting for so fucking long to play it that they were like, you know, it's gonna be good.
I was about to say, usually it's good things come to those who wait.
No, no. Like anyone here ever seen Eddie Murphy stand up? No? Jesus.
No, I haven't
Okay,
seen it.
Eddie Murphy has two comedy specials, Raw and Delirious. In Delirious, he basically has this joke where he talks about uh, women who make you wait before you have sex. And it's like you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait and then you finally have it and it's like the best sex ever. And he equated that to you being really hungry and someone gives you a cracker and you're like, man, this is the best cracker ever. But it's not the best cracker ever. It's just you haven't had anything to eat for a really long time. So, like, Breath of the Wild isn't really that good of a Legend of Zelda game, but it had been, 6 years between Skyward Sword, which Skyward Sword, not really a great Legend of Zelda game either. So, I mean, it had been, like, a while since people had had a Legend of Zelda game that blew their socks off. So, you know, you get this game with this new engine and this massive open world with nothing fucking in it. And respawning enemies and breakable weapons and 5 fucking dungeons. 4 of which are mini dungeons, the same bosses over and over and over again. I mean, people, they were starved for a Legend of Zelda game, and they took it. They took whatever had the Legend of Zelda moniker slapped on it, even though, like I said, Breath of the Wild, not a very good Legend of Zelda game. Mostly because a lot of the core tropes of what you'd expect in a Legend of Zelda game are missing in Breath of the Wild. But anyway, that's just me. Let's see, we got enough time to do some of these news stories. So, some good news. Animaniacs is coming back.
The raw, unfiltered Animaniacs.
And it's an Animaniacs that's not because it's on Hulu. It does they can make it a little less solely for kids. And I'm loving it because they're bringing back Yakko, Wacko, and the Warner Sister Dot. And they brought back all the voice actors, so we get Pinky and the Brain, maybe Buttons and Mandy. I mean,
I can tell you're having fun.
Think of all the pop parodies we can have now, and the political parodies we can have on Animaniacs. Like, we can have so much awesome shit. And all those jokes that are, like, because it's on Hulu, we can have all those jokes that, more of those jokes that just flew over the censor's head, like fingerprints. Check for fingerprints. No, check for prints. I've got them right here. No, fingerprints. I don't think so. We could have more jokes like that. Or when they go back in time and meet Beethoven, Ludwig von Beethoven, and he's like, "I'm a pianist," and they're like, "Okay, good night, folks."
And he had to explain what a pianist is.
No, I'm a pianist. Okay, I'm gonna wash your mouth out with soap if you say that again. No, I played the piano. Then why did you say so? We can get more of those jokes and more of that totally inappropriate Yakko and Wacko trying to fuck the nurse.
Hello, nurse.
Yeah. I mean, basically, like, when people today tell me that cartoons are like this shit's good, and then I remember we had shit like Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, um, you know, Pinky and the Brain, Gargoyles, you know, stuff that actually dealt with some serious shit. And then the shit I see now that's just kind of just stupid. Not all of it, but a lot of it is just kind of stupid. Um, and now they're bringing it back. I'm quite happy. Same voice actors and everything like that. What are your guys' thoughts on Animaniacs coming back?
Quite cool, really.
All right. Okay. All right. Kenoshi, you have any thoughts on Animaniacs coming back?
Yeah, sounds cool. Where is it on again?
It's on Hulu.
Hulu? Yeah, it sounds to be pretty good. Hopefully it's not, hopefully it keeps in faith with the original.
Well, they have the original people together. Because when they went to Steven Spielberg to bring it together, he's like, the only way we can do it is if we get the original band, if we get the band back together. Blues Brothers style. Okay. So they went and got the band back together, you know?
They get all the voice actors and stuff?
Yep.
Too?
All the same voice actors. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, man.
Still alive, huh?
Yeah, it's like the Blues Brothers. Like we're getting the band back together. We're on a mission from God.
How many seasons do they sign up for?
I have no idea, but I hope this shit gets at least 3.
Yeah. Well, I might actually have to start a Hulu account then. Yeah.
Well, you can get the really cheap one that's like $5.99, or you can get the bundle that gives you Disney Plus, ESPN, and Hulu for like $13.99. I do not have
commercials.
I don't have that one gives you the one that doesn't have commercials for all 3. The $13.99 one. I don't have that one because I refuse to get Disney Plus. I don't have a love affair with Disney, so.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Disney fan either. I mean, grew up with Disney and stuff, but I don't think their movies are as great as everybody.
No. Well, the thing is, all the Disney movies that I like, I already own on DVD. So on HD DVD. So I'm like, why would I want?
Obviously.
Oh, go ahead.
Obviously, the '90s stuff, at least that stuff is good, but it's just more recent Disney stuff isn't.
Yeah.
All that great.
The live action remakes are trash. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
That the live action Lion King was trash. The live action
Mulan
was trash. Like basically everything that's been live action from Disney that have been remakes of their animated shit has been trash. Like I would rather watch the animated version than the live action. Like I'd rather watch animated Mulan than the live action one. I'd rather watch animated Lion King, The Jungle Book. And the thing is, they're like, okay, we need to do live action versions. Why don't you make live action versions of shit that would benefit from being live action, like Hercules or Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah.
Like that would work. Like having people with like an animated creature, that would make sense versus like animating lifelike lions. It's like, what the fuck? Ugh, jeez, so stupid. But that's my opinion. I know some people will disagree. So yeah, other little bit of news. Apparently Yakuza Like a Dragon is going to be fucking awesome. Apparently. Comes out November 10th. That is literally 14. 22 days away. So it'll be pretty good. sorry, not 22. It's 18 days away. So, and this is a Yakuza that the combat, instead of being your traditional beat 'em up in Yakuza, it's turn-based combat like an RPG. So, actually, like Chrono Trigger, where the enemies walk around and you can like do attacks that hit multiple people in a group. So it's like Chrono Trigger, except
more confined.
Except it's in a Yakuza setting. But yeah, the combat's like Chrono Trigger. So I'm already excited for this game. I'm pumped. Next little bit of news. Apparently, Age of Calamity. Some people are optimistic that Age of Calamity can fix the shitty story of Breath of the Wild, because it's a prequel. I don't know how that's going to work because it's a prequel to a game that has a shitty story. So, like, you know, it's like making a prequel to a movie that wasn't that good. Like, do we really need a prequel to that shit?
I don't know. I mean, people are still big fans of Breath of the Wild, so.
I don't know, man. I'm just saying, the story was kind of shit in Breath of the Wild. It was kind of, I mean, I know they were busy working on that engine, so they couldn't really do other shit, but come on. People aren't stupid. Next little bit of news. Individual Switch Joy-Cons are receiving a permanent price cut in Japan. So, can't say I'm really surprised they're having a price cut, considering that it's like fucking Russian roulette if you get a Joy-Con that's not going to be fucking busted. So it's only like a $5 or $6 price cut, but it's better than nothing. Breaking news. Apparently, Mass Effect Legendary Edition, so a remaster of the Mass Effect trilogy with all the DLC, might be coming out in the future. Of course, it will not be hitting the Switch, so don't even ask. Because I know there's people's like, well, why isn't this hitting the Switch? Oh, another game that's probably never going to hit the Switch. These people keep on asking about Kingdom Hearts trilogy hitting the Switch. Stop fucking asking. It's pathetic. Next little bit of news. Crackdown 2 developer Ruffian Games is now part of Rockstar. So, now they're now called Rockstar Dundee. So there you go, folks. So any hopes you guys had of a good Crackdown game being made anytime in the future, it ain't happening.
No.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
I actually like Crackdown 3. I think it's gaming junk food, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was. I understand if people think it's bad. I get why people think it's trash, but I enjoy playing it.
Yeah, it's one of those games that's trash, but it's enjoyable trash.
Yeah.
You know? It's like
exactly.
It's like recently I went back and played through Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. And Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning is not a great game. The combat though is fucking awesome. But the core game is like kind of shit. But it's the gameplay loop of combat and all that shit is fun. So that's what makes it enjoyable. But the core gameplay is kind of trash. But it's like gaming junk food, like Crackdown 3. But I think all of the Crackdown games were gaming junk food because those games weren't that good anyway. They were
always kind of trash.
Yeah, but they were enjoyable trash. It was like eating a bag of Cheetos. Yeah. You know, It's like I really should eat this whole, and I don't mean one of those little snack bags. I mean an entire bag of Cheetos.
I mean, most of the time, I think I like the whole keys to the city. I screwed around with that when they just essentially gave you cheat codes to screw around.
Yeah,
Crackdown, that was fun.
And plus, I mean, all the Crackdown games, especially Crackdown 1 and 2, like how they made it so addictive to go around finding the orbs to power yourself up. Like,
Yeah.
the game was just designed as a time waster to just make you just get into a gameplay loop. I get it. I mean, I don't hold Crackdown as being like it's a masterpiece of gameplay design, but it's enjoyable. Um, but anyway, the developers of Crackdown 2, well, their ass is done. So those are our news stories. Our final segment is unpopular opinions. Who wants to go first?
I have an unpopular opinion.
Go ahead.
And that is, I think Street Fighter 2 is probably one of the best Street Fighters out of all of them.
I
It's
agree.
simple, it's straight to the point.
Yeah.
No ridiculous supers.
Nope.
I mean, yeah, it's and you know the supers when they introduce super in the later iterations, they're easy to counter or block.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and plus you have to work for them. So
And
I mean it's
and they're cheap ass characters, but there's counters to cheap ass characters. Except for Sagat. That motherfucker is god tier. In Street Fighter 2.
Yeah.
Sagat is just like, and for those of you who never played Street Fighter 2, I don't know what rock you guys are living under, but for those of you who didn't play Street Fighter 2, Sagat is basically like if you took the moveset of Ryu and then gave him half the reach of Dalzim, but then made him hit physically as hard as Balrog, and you'd have Sagat. Like,
Yeah.
Sagat's Tiger Uppercut is the equivalent of Ryu's Rising Dragon Punch, but his Tiger Uppercut does more damage. His Tiger Knee basically is like just like Sagat is just Sagat is cheap as fuck. He is a cheap as fuck character. I love playing as him, but Sagat is just on a totally different level.
Yeah, because I was playing it on the Switch, and I was like, yeah, this is probably the best one of the best one in the series, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, for ease to get in, it's the easiest to get into. It's the easiest to play. All the characters are different except for Ryu and Ken. They're the only characters who aren't different from one another, basically. Because Ken is just American Ryu, and Ryu is just Japanese Ken. They're basically the same character, except for slight differences. But every other character is different from one another. Guile, there's no other character like Guile in the roster. There's no other character like Blanc on the roster. There's no other character like Vega on the roster. There's no other character like Dalzim, E Honda. Like, they're all different and they all play differently and shit like that. It's great. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
I agree. Jewel, do you have an unpopular opinion?
For me, it's kind of hard for me to actually think of one, but for me, I think the unpopular opinion is that when I think about it, give some of the ratings of games have been basically accurate and inaccurate at the same time. As in, there's some of the scores that kind of get the point of what they're trying to make, as in they describe why the score is given and for what reason. And then there's those other scores that make you say, really? You're going with this because of this. Basically, I consider scores for video games, your mileage may vary thing, but I consider some of the ratings for it kind of a unpopular opinion.
All right. Fair enough. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I'm of two minds with that statement. I agree that ratings can be a bit unfair because there's no standardization. If there was a standardized rating for rating games, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there's no standardization, so people will score things differently depending on what they like. Like there are games that we know are good that some people will score poorly because they don't like it. Um,
Reason
so
why I try to at least score without mentioning graphics or music, because basically those are in the eyes of the beholder, and
well,
try to measure something more realistic,
I mean,
which is not easy.
I don't think music is the eye of the beholder because there's music you might not like, but you can understand the significance of it. Um, and there might be art that you don't necessarily like, but you can understand the significance of it to the history of
Yeah,
what's going on.
which is
So
because
I
that's
don't
the
think
reason
that's
why I said
subjective.
that art in the eyes of the beholders. I mean, the audio and visuals are kind of the things I try to skip because they could be hard to interpret.
Okay. So I guess it's my unpopular. I have two unpopular opinions. The first one's video game related. The second one not so much. My unpopular opinion about video gaming is this. I am tired of hearing people shill games that they know aren't good. And if someone shills a game that they know isn't good, they should be called out on it after the fact. Like IGN, when they gave Mass Effect, not Mass, Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition high scores, when those games are not that good. Especially Dragon Age 2. Dragon Age 2 is trash. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, yeah, it's a 10, it's a 9 out of 10. Really? So so yeah, I don't I don't think that's acceptable. Um, and I think when people do stuff like that, you need to call them out on it. You need to be like, "Hey, you are doing some unfair and shady stuff." Next, um, I think that my other unpopular opinion is this. This isn't really video game related, but I thought I'd say it. I'm tired of people always hyping up their kids. I don't have kids, and I understand that everyone thinks their kids are special because of personal biases, but the world doesn't give a shit about your kids. Stop talking about them, okay? Um, no one cares unless your kid has done something extraordinary. And no, being an honor roll student in elementary school is not extraordinary. Being an honor roll student in high school is not extraordinary. Being an honor roll student at college is not extraordinary. Your kid, when I say extraordinary, I mean, my kid developed a cure for cancer. Okay, put that shit on a license plate. My kid developed a clean energy source. Okay, yeah, that's amazing. Put that shit on a license plate. Unless your kid did some shit like that, I don't fucking care about what your kid did. No one cares. Seriously, no one gives a shit except for you and your immediate family. There you go. I had to say it. I'm sorry. I know some people will get upset with me, but I don't care.
Sometimes it's just
Well, man, that's surprised.
Yeah, I had to mute you because you were having a conversation with someone, Kenoshi. So I'm pretty sure you didn't want that getting out there. Sorry.
oh. Yeah, sorry
Yeah.
about that. Forgot to mute my mic, but
No, it's okay. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I agree with you for the most part. I think it is annoying when people brag about their kids, but sometimes it's just nice to see that there are parents who actually care about their kids. Because there just seems like
No, I
a lot of
understand
people
that. I
don't
mean,
care about their kids.
if the kids know that their parents are in their corner and have their back, that's good. I'm not talking about parents not showing appreciation and support for their children, but you can do that without fucking annoying other people about your kids. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's when you do it ad nauseum. That's when it gets.
You know.
It's like, okay, the reality is nobody's gonna care about your kid as much as you are.
No.
No.
I mean, obviously. I mean, like, case in point, when I was in high school, like, I was on the B honor roll and the A honor roll for, like, 3 years out of my 4-year high school education history. In college, I graduated cum laude. But I never got a sticker. I never put that shit on a car. I don't really talk about it all that often. I keep that shit to myself because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything. That piece of paper, my degrees are valuable because the school I graduated from was accredited. But I mean, like, if I don't do anything with those degrees, they mean nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like, how many people when you go for a job interview or, are going to, I mean, I guess some people say, yeah, you have to have a college diploma, but are they going to make an ultra big deal about it?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're saying I'm an engineer or an architect, something where you have to have credentialing in whatever that field is, yeah, you want someone who is credentialed in that. But by and large, they just want to know that you have it, Not that, and it can give you an edge in certain types of job situations. But I mean, anyway,
well, a lot of it's experience more so than
people can toot their own horns as much as they want. I'm not talking about people bragging about what they did. I'm talking about motherfuckers driving around with my kid is an honor roll student at this school, and my kid did this. Or the people who drive around baby on board. So let me get this straight. I have to change how I drive because you had a baby. People who think that everyone has to change what they're doing because they had kids. No.
Yeah.
I don't. And I know people are saying, well, that's selfish. No, that's not selfish. You know what's selfish? It's selfish that people who didn't have kids have to change their shit up because you had kids. That's selfish. I saw this dude who was like, how am I going to explain to my kids? This guy had a vulgar sign on his car, okay? And this cop stopped him and impounded his car and gave him a ticket. Now, the case was thrown out of court because it was part of this man's First Amendment rights to do whatever he wanted to do on his vehicle. But the cop's like, how am I going to explain to my kids what that sign means? It's not my fucking problem how you're going to explain it to your kids.
I would say that indecency would come up, but that's a bit of a stretch.
Okay, I'll just say it because we're all adults here, okay? The guy had a bumper sticker that says, I eat ass. Okay. Now, this was in Florida.
That's the reason why I was saying indecency.
Look, here's the thing. Here's the thing, okay? Kids are going to ask questions about sex. Very young. Like, they might be watching a nature program and see, two animals have sex.
I was about to say, two animals doing what they do on the Discovery Channel.
And if you're a parent's going to say, just going to be very matter of fact and clinical about the shit. They're going to be like, hey, yeah, they're having sex, they're procreating, they might have a kid. And that's the end of it. Like, how am I going to explain to your kid? Here's how you do it. It's a sex act between two adults. That's all you need to know. You'll learn more when you're older. That's all you had to say. How am I going to explain? Fuck your kids, okay? How am I going to explain? I'm going to give you a ticket. Fuck your kids. Okay.
The only thing I would as I said, the only thing I could call it would be indecency, and that's a bit of a stretch.
The only way I would say it's indecent is if you're doing something in a place that's like grossly inappropriate. Like if you're in a school and teachers are having sex in front of students, okay, yeah,
Wow.
that's indecent. You shouldn't be doing that. But if someone wants to have a bumper sticker talking about what they do, if someone's in their backyard
As
of
I
their
said,
house,
it's a stretch
if
because
if grown
it
people
depends on locations.
if two grown people are in the are in the backyard of their house, okay, and they're grown and they want to go at it like jungle love style in the backyard, that's them. Hey, look, listen.
Yeah,
How
I
am I
get
going to
you.
explain to my kids? Fuck your kids, okay? That's
As
how you're
I
going to explain
said,
to your kids,
it's as I
okay?
said, the only thing I could get on them would be indecency, and that is a stretch because there's certain things that indecency doesn't cover,
you know,
like personal space or if you're not careful, public spaces that are full of are full of endangered minors.
like people are just insane with this shit. They're like, that's
Yeah,
just that's just how like people have this overinflated opinion about their children. Everyone thinks their child is special. They're like, well, it's like, look, listen, I'm gonna let you on a little secret, parents. Most of your kids aren't special. They're gonna be at best they're gonna be average,
I would.
maybe a little bit above average.
I was about to
Okay?
say, you're making me you're making me think that you're going to be one of those that if you ever become a parent, you're at least not going to be one of the South Park parents.
No,
Hopefully.
no, I don't want children. But at the at best, just looking at the law of statistics and averages, most people's kids are either going to be at best they're going to be average, maybe a little bit above average. The vast majority of people's kids are going to be below average. Okay, so once you temper your expectations, you'll be much happier as a parent. Okay, your kid's not going to be a poet laureate. Your kid's not going to change the world. They're not going to do anything that's going to make the world a better place. At best, just raise your kid not to be a fucking delinquent so that they fuck up other people's lives, and you'll do pretty good.
You mentioned that, and I find that I think it was my junior year. I remember sitting in creative writing class, and there was a senior girl who's like, when I graduate, I'm gonna go out and change the world. And I'm here thinking in the back of my head, what the heck does that even mean? How are you gonna do that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I've seen people who do it. There are people who are extraordinary. I'm not going to say there aren't, but that is very, very rare. Okay, they're statistically only about 5 to 10% of the people in the world. Everyone else is average, and there's nothing wrong with that. But for parents to fuck with other people over their average fucking kids that aren't going to do anything extraordinary,
Temper your
And a lot
expectations.
of
that
the
annoys me.
extraordinary, a lot of the reason those people are extraordinary is because they weren't necessarily afraid to fail. Most people are afraid to. Most people are afraid to fail. Most
Not
people are afraid to.
not necessarily. Some of the most extraordinary people I've ever seen fall into two camps. They're the people who succeeded at practically everything they did, or the people who failed and just kept and were just persistent.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
two camps. But typically speaking, the people who are in the first camp, when they finally do fail, it's spectacular. um, they either they either get broken and never come back, or they come back stronger than they were before.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an either or scenario. But anyway, as I was saying, back to my original unpopular opinion. No one cares about your kids. Stop annoying other people about you having kids. Because the reason I say this is because I was watching this YouTube clip where this comedian said, people who just think that they had a kid and they're special because they had a kid. It's not having a kid isn't special. It's how you raise them. And then this lady who had like 9 kids pops up and says, "Well, my husband came from a large family." It's like, well, first of all, no one was fucking talking about your husband. And the only people who would be offended about me talking about this shit are people who just had a lot of kids and don't really raise them. Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's the problem. People, if you talk about, if you're using a general explanation, for some reason people get offended.
yeah,
They act as if they were being talked about, and it's like, we weren't talking about you, but since you're gonna
put
put
yourself
in this
out there. Yeah,
conversation,
so you're gonna put
it's
yourself
like,
out there.
why do people do that? It's just like,
Well, there's an old Southern saying, and Jewel might have heard of it. It's called "A struck dog will holler." Uh,
Oh yeah.
Another way
If you
of
hit
putting it
something, it
is
will
an
respond.
empty can will rattle. So basically, if you mention something generally and then they start getting defensive, it's probably because they did some shit they had no business doing.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God, yes.
So really, that's my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, to wrap things up, I'm tired of people always talking about like people like everyone else has to be put out of their shit because you had a kid. Like you can't go to the movies because you like people paid to watch their movie, and you sit down in the theater and someone, because your ass couldn't get a babysitter or you didn't have the money to fucking get a babysitter, I have to listen to your kid while trying to watch the movie. That's not fair to the people who didn't have kids or who had kids and left that motherfucker at home with a babysitter or their older sibling. People did not pay to hear your fucking kid, okay? Um, people working at a grocery store, having their lanes or whatever, and your kid goes and tears up the fucking lane, breaking shit, fucking up merchandise. People, like, seriously, those people don't have to be put out because of your little fucking brat.
Yeah.
My point is this, okay? Your kid's not special. People don't care. I know you think people care because you're biased, because you're a parent. People don't care, okay? Because, having children is not special. Humans have grown to this massive size of population because people had kids. So it's not a special thing, okay?
It might be special for you, but it's
Yeah.
not,
Yeah, your parents think it's special because now you're going to go through the shit you put them through when you were a kid. I mean, because I know parents put that curse on you. The curse is one day you'll have kids and they'll be just like you. Not me, because I'm not having kids. I mean, if you have a dog, that's kind of like having kids, but your dog always appreciates you. I mean, it's like permanently having a 3-year-old.
yeah.
A 3-year-old who, if you don't get them fixed, will one day come home pregnant or get somebody pregnant. But aside from that, it's like having a 3-year-old who always appreciates you. But anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. Anything you guys want to pimp out before we wrap things up? Nothing?
Yeah,
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead. Pimp it
I
out.
remember there's this one. If you ever seen an article called "Do Not Defend Cyberpunk 2077," done by somebody in Forbes, you can see what I'm gonna be nominating for at Saturday. I'm just I'm just leaving it there right now.
I'll have to look it up and read it before I.
Probably just last minute bug testing, because I know a lot of they have game testers that play the game. I think as they're developing it.
Yeah,
So,
the offer
bugs that
the offer of that article is going to be on my list. So if anything,
I mean,
I'll just leave it there.
okay, I just scanned it, and he's talking about don't defend them about crunch time, like mandating
Yeah,
crunch time to get the game out. I mean,
yeah.
he's
So
right.
here's the thing: we are in the middle of a pandemic, and they honestly try to evade something like this.
That's true, but the thing is that they said we are going to overhaul um, our work process so that people don't have to do crunch. And then, in order to get this shit out by November 19th, when's that shit coming out? Let me look it up. Cyberpunk 2077. I think it's November. Cyberpunk 2077 launch day.
Yeah.
It's November 19th, okay? I mean, clearly, okay, look, okay. In the perfect world, they would have just delayed this game till next year. But this game has been delayed what, 3 times now already? It was supposed to come out this summer. They want to get it out, and they want to get it out when the new consoles launch, so that it'll have that boost of being like people have a new console and they want something to play on it. I totally get it, but I mean, it does come across as a little two-faced for people to say, because basically here's the equivalent of what CD Projekt Red did. Okay, let's say you were this would be like if I went to my employees and said, hey, we're going to be closed Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And then, like, literally, they're like, people have already made plans. They've set shit up. And I'm like, oh, I changed my mind. We need to, there's going to be huge crowds. So come in Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Like, that's kind of a dick move. That's a dick move to my employees. I mean, look, listen, yeah, they're gonna get paid, and yeah, I know they're getting overtime and all that shit. But I mean, didn't we say earlier? Didn't Kenoshi and I say earlier that money, you can always make more money, but your time is gone forever. But I gotta disagree.
Yeah, but I was saying that's kind of overblown with how the writer was talking about it.
I mean, have you read the article?
I tried skimming through it some, so if anything, I'm trying to remember. I was trying to recall more of it because it kind of goes into a video too. So if anything, I'm gonna have to reread it to be double sure.
Well, I'm reading the article, and the guy's just saying they weren't given a choice. They were just told you're doing this, and that's the end of it. Now they do get profit sharing. I mean, they are being compensated for it, but like I said, I mean, like, okay, they've had all this time that they weren't crunching, so it's not as bad as what EA and BioWare with that BioWare magic where people were getting burnt out making these games. This hasn't happened to these people because they changed it, but still, I mean, that's kind of a dick move. Oh, we're not having crunch. Oh wait, no, we are. It's like, come on, man.
Huh.
I mean, listen. I understand they don't want bullshit, but I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna say that they're not to blame, because the thing is this: if they wanted, like, really, you know what could have mitigated this? If they had more programmers. If they hired more programmers instead of like paying all that overtime, if they hired more programmers to help out, they wouldn't need to do crunch time.
I also think part of it also has to do with the fact that we're developing for the PS4, the Xbox One, the PS5,
And the PC,
and
yeah.
the PC and the Series X.
Yeah, but
S.
the Series X is a PC.
Yeah.
All they're doing is just it's a AMD PC build, basically, that's
Not,
you know,
not to mention it's a big RPG with lots of variables, so
yeah,
they might have, because game testing, which is not game testing. For those who are listening, it's not the kind of job you think it is. It's
no,
not just simply
It's
sitting
a
around playing games all day. It is real. It is.
no.
it's a bit of a chore
It's
because
work.
you have to list the bugs that you run into.
Yeah,
Not to mention
they have to
you'll
list the
have to go.
bug, and then they have to they have to get it to happen again and again and again to see if it's a systemic bug or just something that a certain specific set of events have to occur in order for it to happen. So it's
Not
long,
to
it's
mention,
boring, it's tedious.
yeah, yeah, and you have to play scenarios
Yep.
over and over again. So you have to play missions or levels over and over again.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a pretty hellish job. But I'm guessing, they might have found some game-breaking bugs, and
But let's keep it
now they have
real.
to work.
Once this game launches, I guarantee you it will not be as buggy as a Bethesda game.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I guarantee it. I
you had to
guarantee it.
you had the punch there, didn't you?
Well, The Witcher wasn't as buggy as Skyrim or Fallout 4 or Fallout 76. So
I know. It's just that if anything, I thought it was so obvious that it hurts.
there was like one major game. If I remember correctly, there was one major glitch, like major glitch that I remember in The Witcher 3 back in the day when it launched, and it was a gameplay exploit where you could basically go and murder the shit out of cows in this town, and they would respawn when you fast travel back, and you just keep on murdering the shit out of them and skinning them, and then sell the skins for money. And they basically what they did was they patched that out and they put a new subroutine in so that when you skinned so many cows, a griffin would come and attack you to keep you from doing it. Like that was the major glitch that I remember from that game. I don't remember people playing that game and it just fucking like you falling through the floor, it crashing because there's a memory bleed, people entering a building, a mission starting and the shit just crashing to the desktop. I mean, like,
And in that game, the Witcher 3 has a shit ton of moving parts. Like,
yeah,
Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and it doesn't break.
yeah. And plus, The
So
Witcher looks really good. Like, recently I reinstalled Fallout 4 with a texture pack to make it look better. First of all, the game doesn't even recognize my fucking graphics card. I have almost a top of the line graphics card from last gen, from AMD. There is no, I have the top of the line graphics card from last gen. I have a 5700 XT.
yeah,
Okay, so it does not recognize my graphics card. So basically, if I try to run the game on the highest settings, it still looks like ass. Of course, Fallout 4 looks like ass anyway. It's not a very good looking game. Okay? So let's just get that out the way. But the game crashed on me 3 times. I had to download all types of shit off the modding site in order to get it to run somewhat smoothly. It still doesn't run great. Fallout 4, like, came out 2016, 4 years in, is still shit. Okay? It's not a good game. My point is this. Like, look, I understand from a business standpoint, CD Projekt Red needs to get this project out. Okay? They need to bring in some money. Okay? I get it. But it's not fair to your employees to do some shit like that. Like I said, they probably would have done better hiring more programmers. And you cannot tell me there aren't programmers in Poland.
yeah. I mean, you could have contracted programmers, freelance programmers.
Yeah.
To help out with some of,
Because that's
stuff
what they
like
needed.
this.
Instead of hiring, getting these people to crunch and fucking up their schedule, hire some people to help out programming.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, just like, these people don't have to be on the payroll forever. They're just freelance. I don't freelance programmers to help clean up the code, and you just let them go after the project's over. I guess.
Or you hire them to help out coding, the people who are the best at it and show an aptitude for helping out the game, their coding isn't sloppy. You're like, hey, you know, you bring them on, you know, part time or something, so then they can put that shit on their resume. You know, it's a win-win. Okay, they get a little scratch, you get help getting your shit out. You know, you don't have to fuck up these people's schedules like that. Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure there are people who were like, oh yeah, there's no crunch. I guarantee there are people who scheduled shit that had to cancel their shit because of this shit. Okay, and I've worked on large scale projects where once you're almost to the finish point, you just want to finish that shit and get like I'm pretty sure the people working on Cyberpunk 2077 are tired of fucking seeing that game. They want a good 6 to 8 weeks of not looking at it, hearing about it, playing it, seeing code for it. They don't want to even hear the fucking name. So, anyway, yeah, I disagree. But that's enough. Anything you guys want to pimp out aside from CD Projekt Red?
I think we're all right.
All right.
Yeah.
So with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can reach us at mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. That's the email. You can at me on Twitter at mrredfox91, Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91, and there's a link to the Discord in the description underneath this video. With that being said, that's the end of the podcast.
There's one.
No, go ahead.
One more thing I would want. If you can find this game on a deep sale, Near Automata, it's pretty decent, but it is a bit schizophrenic. So, you know, and if you're all right with the gameplay styles being mashed together, it's a pretty decent game.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Platinum game. Like, Platinum is very, like, you either like their games or you're just turned off by them. They're very hit or miss. I would say the most approachable Platinum game is probably Okami.
Yeah.
Every other one has kind of been like, you either love it or you're not going to love it.
Yeah.
There's no, like, universal Platinum game that you're just, like, everyone loves. So with that being said, that's the end of the podcast. Remember,